the morning after the night before then, and West Ham have been knocked out of the FA Cup, and I'm absolutely fuming, to be honest with you. I've slept on it. I thought I'd be feeling better today, but I'm probably marginally better, marginally less angry than I was yesterday. But it's still going to be a real tough one to take, that. I'm not going to lie to you. First of all, though, before I talk about it, before I get a few things off my chest regarding the Leeds game and everything involving it, apologies I haven't done a video in the last few weeks. It's just been very busy with normal life stuff. Been a bit under the weather as well, as you can hear by my voice, which is partly a cold and partly shouting at the screen yesterday. But yeah, apologies for that, and apologies for my appearance as well. My barnet's all over the gas, so I've just stuck an out on to get me through. But I just wanted to come on here and get a few feelings off my chest, because I'm really angry, to be honest with you. I'm really angry at mainly Nuno. My anger is sort of centred around Nuno, but West Ham in general. We can talk about owners and all that kind of stuff, because do we have the squad that is capable of missing players in such a big game and still getting over the line? Obviously not. We didn't. In my opinion, we didn't do enough in January, and the reason we're in this place to begin with, as in the sort of squad, is the poor recruitment, and that goes down to the owners. So, sort of notwithstanding all of that, I'll put all that to one side for now. Really angry at Nuno. And just my position to begin with, because I think this is a question that's been bandied around recently in terms of, what would you rather? Would you rather win the FA Cup and go down, or stay up and get knocked out by Leeds? Now, obviously, you'd hope that it wasn't either or. There was that dream that both could happen, which is obviously certainly over now. But even if that question was as black and white as that, then I would have got leaned towards the winning the FA Cup, because there's so many issues at this football club, and obviously relegation would just worsen that. There's no doubt about that. But I do think playing in the Championship is worse for the club than it is the fans in many ways. From a financial point of view, from people losing their jobs, all that kind of stuff. That is what relegation brings. Of course, as fans, we want to see our club in the Premier League. But are we going to win the Premier League in the next few years? No, definitely not. So another season in the Premier League, maybe going down next year anyway, or in a relegation battle, because we don't look like we're going to kick on from here by any means. And if we stay up, we likely keep Nuno. So it'll be similar to what we've had this season for large parts, and we might be in a relegation battle, and we might go down the next season anyway. And as fans, I always think the cups are for the fans more than anything. I think the cups are for the fans, because that's what we're in it for. We support West Ham. We don't support West Ham for the glory, of course not. But every year, you just want that little bit of hope. You want that little bit of hope that something can happen, and it would look like it was gonna in the FA Cup. I don't think we've had an easier run of draws, as far as I can remember, being a West Ham fan all my life, to be honest. So I was really hoping that we would give absolutely everything yesterday to get into that semi-final. Particularly, not that this should be a factor, but with Southampton knocking out Arsenal, before the game, you had a 30. What would have been after? If we'd have got through, we'd have had a 33% chance of drawing Southampton in an FA Cup semi-final. Now, no disrespect to Southampton, they don't play really well against Arsenal and deserve to go through. But if you'd have said at the start of the season you'll have an FA Cup semi-final against Southampton, you'd have bitten your hand off. And don't get me wrong, Leeds have got Chelsea, and would that have happened? Probably. And but even Chelsea, I would have fancied our chances. There's a lot of problems in their ranks, and an FA Cup semi-final against Chelsea is certainly not Man City. Man City, you sort of say, well, we're probably going to get beat, but I would have fancied our chances against Chelsea. And I just felt this was just a massive opportunity, and this was a big one for the fans. I think the fans, I grew up on the FA Cup. Some of my earliest memories are watching the FA Cup final on a Saturday afternoon, sun shining, and that's what football was to me. I mean, the FA Cup was so big back then; it felt like the world stopped to watch the FA Cup final. It's obviously less important these days, but it's for a West Ham, I think it should be the most important trophy. I mean, I would rather win the FA Cup than the Europa League, for example. I know the Europa League would bring Champions League and all that kind of stuff, but for me, the FA Cup is everything. And I think I might be wrong in this, but I feel like West Ham fans in general feel that way about the FA Cup. And I've always been so frustrated as the years have gone on when we've been given difficult draws or we've not performed in games and we've gone out early, we've gone out in the third round, fourth round, fifth round, or whatever it is. And this year it felt different. It really felt different. So let's get into my sort of anger with Nuno because I really am pissed off with him. And I'll be clear now. This is how I feel about it, and maybe I'll change, but I don't think so. Even if we stay up, which I think is a big if now, but even if we do stay up, I do not want Nuno at this football club. Not because he's a terrible manager. I think he's an average Premier League manager, but we are going to continue to have these strange decisions that have been littered throughout our season since he joined. We're going to have the same sort of pragmatic counter-attacking football that we've had. Fine. And I just don't want it. I just don't want it. I'm just bored of it. And I just don't think... I think particularly after this game, I think he let us down yesterday. I really do think he let us down. I feel that strongly about it. Because start your best team. Like, just start your best team. This is an FA Cup quarter-final at home to Leeds. Start your best bloody team in their best positions and go and win the game. Because I don't care what happens, right? And obviously we've gone and played 120 plus minutes and gone to penalties anyway. And after resting a couple of players. So what is the point? You might as well just play your best team, try and win the game. And if you're 2-0 up with 10 minutes to go, then maybe you make a couple of changes to try and see the game out, but rest a few players' legs there. But why? Why go into that and not play your best team? Now, first of all, I want to talk about formation. Formation-wise, and you could argue we sort of played a 4-4-2. It was more of a 4-4-1-1 yesterday, with Fernandes behind Tati. Formation-wise, the only reason we are in with any sniff this season of staying up is because we found a formation that worked with the players we had available. It was 4-4-2. It was Tati and Pablo working hard up front because that is what they are. They're not great players, but they are hard workers. Bowen and Somerville on the wings, Fernandes and Souček in the centre of midfield, which worked as a pairing. It gave us a bit of everything what we needed. And go from there. Get men behind the ball, be compact, but then counter with numbers. And get Fernandes forward, get Somerville, Bowen, and the two strikers forward. Try and cut out passes in the middle of the park and make us hard to beat. That is what's worked. That's the only reason we are even within a sniff of the Premier League. Because Nuno sort of stumbled across that and started playing that. I think the first time was the Tottenham game where we went and won at their place. Then after that we played it again in Sunderland and we went and won 3-1 in probably one of our best performances this season. Then we went to Chelsea and we were 2-0 up at half time playing brilliant football, played them off the park. And we obviously went on to lose the game because of a Nuno mistake, bringing Max Kilman on. I don't think we've played particularly well since then. And I might be wrong in this. I don't think we've played Bowen, Somerville, Pablo and Tati in a 4 since then. So it's like he found something that worked. And obviously we've had injuries. Pablo got injured. Somerville's obviously been injured. So I get that. I do get that. But since then, even against Man United, we've done okay. We worked hard. We were hard to beat, and we got a draw against City. We worked very hard defensively. We're very good defensively, and I think since then, Bournemouth at home, I think it was, we were very good defensively. I don't think from an attacking point of view we've played well since that first half against Chelsea. Maybe you could argue the first half against Burnley, we went 2-0 up, but I think that was the game after anyway, and it was Burnley. No disrespect, but I don't understand why Nuno is starting like 3 midfielders in a game against Leeds at home in the FA Cup quarter final. I don't understand it. You've got Pablo on the bench. He's played the equivalent of a full match anyway. You might as well have started him. Start Tati and Pablo up front. Pablo, we saw with the penalty, we saw with different moments with Pablo, he's not a good footballer. Let's face it, he is not a good footballer. But what he can do is work hard. He can put pressure on people. And the same with Tati. Tati's not technically a very good forward. But he works hard. He gets about people. Play them as a pair. They are useless on their own. They are decent together. Play them as a pair. Then get Bowen and Somerville on the wings. Somerville doesn't play, right? I'm guessing he hasn't shaken off his injury. Traore had his best game for West Ham yesterday. He was brilliant for us. So you'd have had Traore on the left and Bowen on the right, and Souček and Fernandes in midfield. That's the team that should have started. I think, I need to double check this, but correct me if I'm wrong. Nuno joined in September, which I can't believe. We have had Nuno for the majority of the season, and yet we are in April, and the quarter-final, I say it again, quarter-final of the FA Cup at home to Leeds, a massive opportunity, and he's experimenting with Bowen on the left and Traore on the right. Now, I know wingers can interchange, right? But when you are playing the formation like that, and when you've got someone like Jarrod Bowen, who was out of form anyway, let's face it, and you play him in a position that I don't think he's played for West Ham. I don't think he's played left midfield of a four in midfield. I might be wrong, but I don't think he has. So he hasn't played that position in at least 7 years, right? And you choose now to play him in that position. What? How does that make any sense? And you proved that you got it wrong because you changed it at half time. You make the substitutions that you needed to. I'll come on to Potts and McGasser in a bit. And then you swap Traore and Bowen round. So you go, oh, I've got it wrong. And the chance Bowen gets that hits the post and Fernandes scores from, guess what? It's from the right, cutting in on his left foot. What we know Bowen can do. Why are you starting him on the left then? It makes no sense. It just makes no sense. It's just a stupid experiment, and experiments that we've seen all season. I didn't like when he was experimenting with Skulls at right back. That made no sense either. But at least he was experimenting at a time that made sense in September or October, whenever it was. We're in April. Play your best team in the best positions. I'll say it again. And in your best formation, be hard to beat and do them on the counter attack. That is what you're good at. You are not Pep Guardiola, Nuno. You are not Pep Guardiola. You're not that guy. You are an average Premier League manager. And that's a compliment. I'd love to be an average Premier League manager. But you are an average Premier League manager. You're a counter-attacking, pragmatic Premier League manager. Be that. Be that for West Ham. Do not try and play little tricks. And, he's playing tricks in press conferences and he's keeping his cards close to his chest. All this stuff. Just keep it simple. Play the players in their best position. And it is really, really frustrating. So I do put a lot of yesterday's defeat on Nuno. And I was raging at 2-0. I was raging. And the other point I want to make with Nuno, before I come on to the players, is it's hard. It's hard to really put a portion where that comeback comes from yesterday. It's hard. It's difficult to say where those 2 goals actually come from. Was it Nuno? Is it anything that Nuno's instilled? Maybe you could argue that the team spirit, the never say die attitude, is from Nuno, and that's helped us. Fine, but he was standing on that touchline. A lot of fans left, right, as we know. And Nuno didn't look like he thought this was coming back. And you imagine, other managers, say Pep, Arteta, which I know, we've not got that, and we're not likely to get someone like that. But you imagine them on a touchline, 2-0 down in the FA Cup quarter-final at home. They would be changing. They would be doing something. They'd be like, do this. They'd be on the touchline. There'd be energy there. He was standing there with his arms crossed. He looked like he was out of ideas. I think the reason the fans left, and obviously the fans have taken a bit of stick for this, I think the reason the fans left is because it just didn't look like it was going to happen. The only time it sort of thought, oh, hello, was when Craig Pawson somehow added 11 minutes on. I mean, he is a terrible ref, but where he got 11 minutes from, I do not know. He adds on 11 minutes. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, if we get 1 goal, we actually got a chance here. And that is the only reason we got back into the game, as far as I'm concerned. Leeds could have finished it off after the second goal went in. Our heads went down. People left the ground. The players were done. We didn't look like we had really any sort of idea of how to get back in the game. And Leeds could have scored a third, and Nonto or whatever his name is went close with a decent effort. They could have got a third easily, but we sort of stayed in the game. You've got to give credit where credit's due. And I think the second half we were better. Funny enough, when Nuno put his best 11 out and in their best positions, we look better. That's weird, isn't it? That's funny, that. And coming on to the players, I just thought there's a lot of bad performances. I thought Fernandes was awful. I'm pretty much everything I'm saying is before what happened and then going into extra time. Because in extra time, we were the better team, but there was no structure to us. It was a bit of an end-to-end game, particularly the first half of extra time. We were unlucky with the two disallowed goals, and then we get knocked out on penalty. So I'm not really. That's the you can't really, and that's what I want to take from this as well. And this is why I'm sort of I felt obliged to come on here and do a video, is because I think the extra time period and the stoppage time period where we come back to 2-2 can mask how bad we actually were yesterday. Now people say, oh, we were better in the second half. We were, but we still weren't great. We still weren't great. We didn't create chance after chance, and they couldn't get out. We were better than Leeds, who sort of went into a shell and were quite poor in that second half at times. But we weren't amazing. We had a couple of chances, but we didn't have a lorry load of chances. So yeah, Fernandes was awful, and had one of his worst games. I felt he looked like he was just knackered. He's obviously been in international duty. It was one of those where it's almost reminded me of when you've had a few pints the night before a Sunday league game, and you just touches off it. It touches like a trampoline, gets away from you, and that's what he reminded me of a little bit. But the midfield that Nuno started with, Magassa. I mean, he is such a frustrating player for me because he has ability. He can play a pass. He's got technical quality. He's a big lad. He can actually run. He can get about the pitch, and yet he delivers performances like that. I thought in the first half he was the worst player on the pitch. He looked like he couldn't do anything right. His touch was getting away from him. He was losing the ball. He was a hindrance for us going forward. He was a hindrance for us defensively. Excuse me, I thought the midfield was just so open because he was the worst player on the pitch. Not far behind him was Freddie Potts. Now, Freddie Potts, I think, is a different scenario. Magassa, I think there's an attitude / motivational problem for him, maybe. Nuno not getting the best out of him. I don't know what that is. I don't think Nuno's trusted Magassa since Wolves away at the start of January, where he delivered another awful performance. I don't think he's trusted him since then, and he's played few and far between since then. So I think that there's issues there, but I think Magassa, yeah, he was woeful and rightly hooked at half time. Potts wasn't great either. One thing I would say about Potts, I don't think he has the quality to play at this level yet. But that's why for me, and what Potts' best position is holding midfield, not central midfield in a two, holding midfield with two players in front of him. And I think there is a big difference. I know it doesn't seem like that. I think there's a big difference in that positional change because you simplify what Freddie Potts does, and the best of Freddie Potts is doing things simple, getting the ball from the back four, which he's capable of doing, getting on that half turn, and then just playing a simple pass into a midfielder, getting a move started, and then breaking up play. If you remember Declan Rice when he first come into that West Ham's midfield, and he's nowhere near as good as Declan Rice, or will ever be probably. But Declan Rice at the start, he wasn't the box-to-box midfielder we see now. He was a number 6. He held he played in front of the back four. He stopped attacks. He put his foot in, which Freddie Potts can do, broke up attacks, and then just played a simple pass. That is what Freddie Potts needs to do. And Nuno needs to just simplify his game and just say, that all I want you to do is protect the back four and then just play simple passes. And I feel like he's been asked to do more than he's capable of doing at this level. You can become a box-to-box midfielder once you grow and become a better player. I don't think he's at that level there. So I do feel for Potts a little bit, but he was awful as well. And then we come on to Max Kilman. I mean, Max Kilman's going to get a lot of stick for this game. And rightly so, he's not good enough. He's just not good enough. He's not a £40 million centre-half. Not that the price tag is his fault, but he's not. He's not good enough. It's just obvious. He's a calamity at this point. He's so low on confidence. And he deserves some stick. I'm not going to, he's a big boy. He's paid a lot of money. I'm not going to sit here and say that I completely feel sorry for him because he's a Premier League footballer and he needs to be doing more than he is doing. And he needs to be performing at a high level. It's as simple as that. But Nuno hasn't helped him either. We have an injury in the warm-up to Todibo against Aston Villa. And imagine you're Max Kilman in that situation. You're sitting in the dressing room. Tadibo's just come in. He's gone to the physio. I've got a knock. I can't play. And Nuno looks at you and then goes, right, Freddie Potts is starting and we're going to change our whole game plan, our whole system. As a player there, you've got to feel a real lack of confidence and a lack of trust from your manager. That is going to hurt. Now again, he's a big boy. Get on with it. You're a professional. Do your work in training to get on back on the on manager's terms. But my point is this: if you are not capable of starting against a Premier League in a Premier League game against Aston Villa, right, where we could have lost that game no matter who was starting, even if Todibo was starting, we might have and probably would have lost anyway, right? So as much as we can't wave goodbye to any Premier League games at the moment. Each game is so important. It wasn't the biggest game of our season. It wasn't nowhere near as big as the Leeds game. So if he's not fit to play that game, as in he's not capable to start that game when you've got an injury to Todibo in the warm up, and you can just go make a like for like change, but you'd rather change your system, then he is not fit and not capable to start an FA Cup quarter-final against Leeds. He's just not. So Nuno has not helped him because now he starts that game with a real lack of confidence. And he's at that point now where he didn't even play that badly up until, the first incident with the first penalty incident. I've heard a lot of people say it's a penalty. Now, I thought the rule was, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, I thought the rule was that if the strike takes place and the ball is gone when the tackle comes in, and the tackle doesn't influence the strike at all, which it didn't, I thought that can't be a penalty. I might be wrong. I don't know what the rules are, but I feel that should be cleared up. I've seen things happen like that before, and penalties not been given, and that's why I thought it wasn't given. If I can understand if Kilman comes in, the player's off balance, and then strikes it and it goes wayward, yeah, it's a penalty because you've affected that strike and not got the ball. But the player hit the ball, it's gone, and then Kilman comes in. So that's why I would question whether it's a penalty. He doesn't get the ball, it's a late tackle. If we're going to give penalties for that, fine, but I think that needs to be consistent, and I'm not sure there is with that. The second one is clear penalty, and it just, again, he's timing. He's just so slow, isn't he? He's so slow and lethargic. He's just not a West Ham centre-half. When you think about the proper West Ham centre-halves that we've had, Craig Dawson, James Collins, neither of those were the best defenders in the world, and neither of those were the best on the ball. But they were just alert. They were there. They were always, they'd put their body on the line. They were quick to act. They'd throw their body there. He's just the opposite of that, Max Kilman. So, yeah, I do think a little bit of blame, again, goes to Nuno for poor man management. But I do sympathise that he probably had a lack of options due to Todibo and Mavropanos injuries. But yeah, that in terms of the other players, I thought, like I say, Traore had a very good game. I think that's one positive we take from it. If Somerville does miss any more time for the rest of the season, hopefully we get another few performances out of Traore like that. Obviously, his final ball was never perfect, but I actually thought he was good, and I thought he put some good balls into the box, created chances. I thought he's our best player, which is amazing to say. And yeah, excuse me. I think the forwards, they just need to play together in a front two and just work hard, because they're never going to be the most technically gifted strikers. We know that. So I really struggle when Nuno plays one of them up front on their own. It just doesn't work, and it hasn't worked all season or since they both joined. So play them as a pair, and that's when we've looked okay. So yeah, sorry, there's not been much structure to this video. I'm not feeling my best, but I just wanted to do a little bit of a rant, to be honest, because I felt like it was I was really disappointed. Like I say, people were saying that the game on Friday is bigger. For me, it's not. For me, it's not. Nothing's going to change. I actually got this feeling that if we go down, Nuno will stay. They'll keep Nuno for some reason that. We've looked better recently, and I'm not sure he gets sacked if we get relegated. I'm not sure, and we're going to have the same owners. So an FA Cup run for me is all we can cling to at the moment. And I felt like yesterday was just an unbelievable opportunity, and an opportunity that, look, if we had have played our best team and given everything in that game and we still got knocked out on penalties, fine, absolutely fine. That's football. That's knockout games. But don't leave people like Thomas Souček on the bench. Don't leave people don't swap Adama Traore and Bowen round to play positions that, particularly Bowen, he doesn't normally play. Don't leave. Don't not play your best formation. Do you know what I mean? It's just It is so frustrating from Nuno. It really is frustrating. So that's my thoughts. Let me know how you think and what your thoughts are coming with it. I am really distraught. And look, I will probably feel up for the fight again as we get closer to Friday. I'm going to the game. I hope that we put in a performance that is needed. We get a massive 3 points and we do stay up because I do want us to stay up. Let's not get it twisted. It's not. I'm not like I don't care. I do want us to stay up, but I just feel like the FA Cup for me it was just such an opportunity. We're not gonna get a run of draws like that for another 20 years. I honestly don't think we will. And we stumbled through a lot of them. Extra time against QPR, extra time against Burton Albion, penalties against Brentford. We stumbled through to get to where we had. And we just had such a good opportunity. And I don't think that comes again in another maybe 10, 15, 20 years. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we get another good round of draws next time. But, being a West Ham fan, over the last few years, our run of draws has been horrific. We're always playing Premier League opposition in the third or fourth round. And we normally get knocked out. This felt different. And it felt like a real opportunity. On the positive side, like I say, Adama Traore delivered a performance that hopefully, if we are without Somerville for any point, he comes into it again and does well. It was clear that togetherness was still there. It was clear that togetherness was still there with the players. You don't come at from 2-2 just by chance. There is something there that means that you felt like the game was still. It didn't look like it. I've got to be honest. Like I say, I sympathise with the people that left the ground because it didn't look like we were going to come back and do anything. It looked like we were done. I think, like I say, Nuno was standing there, arms crossed. It didn't really look like he had any other ideas. He weren't turning to the bench and thinking, not that we had much on the bench, but didn't have much available. And then the players just didn't look like it weren't like we were. Leeds were under siege and we were just throwing balls into. But it was okay, but there wasn't much there. And all of a sudden we get that one goal, and then the second comes. And I thought Bowen, for those key moments, he is obviously unlucky with it when he hit the post. I thought that he was very good then. Tati's finish for the goal that was offside was incredible. It was such a difficult finish that. Obviously, someone will be in the headlines is Finn Herrick, and rightly so. I thought he did really well and gave us such an opportunity, saving the first penalty. And then Bowen, you'd expect him to put that away. I'm not going to have a go at anyone for missing penalties, but Jesus, you'd expect him to hit that with a bit more power than he did. But yeah, Traore, Herrick, and just the togetherness of the squad is what we can take from it. But it's very, very difficult to take from it. And then last thing I'll say is the fans, because the fans again are getting a bit of stick for walking out. I don't personally leave when I go to games, which is not as much as it used to be, but I don't personally leave until it is pretty much done and dusted and there's like 30 seconds left. But normally I leave after the final whistle. That's just me. Everyone's pays the money and there's the right to do what they want to do. And I would imagine a lot of people left because of the way the game was unfolded and the way that the players looked on the pitch. I think if we were throwing everything at Leeds, the kitchen sink, and it was just ball into the box after ball into the box, I think people stay. I think that it was the fact that we just didn't, and we were terrible. Particularly first half, we were terrible. So I think it's easy to sit here and moan at fans and go, "Oh, you should never leave early," and I don't leave early, but I do think we were so bad that people probably thought, "Well, this is done. This is done." And if you do leave, then that's the risk you run, and they will probably learn from that. People that did learn from that. I actually think the stewards as well, not letting them back in the game, back in. Why? Just let them back in. If they've got a ticket, let them back in. We need an atmosphere. Do you know what I mean? What are we doing? I don't really understand it. Again, people say tough luck. Well, yeah, I don't know. I think it's a bit harsh. One thing I would say against the fans, the portion of fans, is I don't think booing Max Kilman is at all fair or right. Is Kilman shocking? Yes. Is Kilman one of our worst ever signings? Yes, at 40 million. Do I feel completely sorry for Kilman? No. But is it any way logical to boo your own player who is trying his best? If you're not trying, if their player is genuinely not trying, doesn't care, then fine. I can sort of understand booing. But if a player is giving his best, which I do think Kilman is, I think he's just looks so low on confidence. What is booing going to do? Now, I know that's easy to say in hindsight, but I genuinely wouldn't boo my own player if I felt like he was giving everything. I just don't think it achieves anything. It just makes the player feel worse. What's he going to think going home? And again, people say, I don't care. And I understand that point of view, but I just don't agree with the booing your own player. Unless a player clearly just like, throws his shirt on the ground and doesn't care and doesn't want to play for the club, that's when you boo a player, in my opinion, when he's coming off and he's taking his time. A bit like the Granit Xhaka incident, and you just like get off the pitch and he's taking his time. That's when you're just like, you're taking the piss out of my football club. Other than that, I don't think you boo a player who's just not performing very well. That, again, just my opinion. But anyway, sorry this is a bit of a ramble, a bit of a long one. But I'm going to end it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and yeah. It's going to be a tough one to take, that one. But we go on to Friday, and let's hope for a better evening.